Go and hi everyone and welcome to the In Michigan podcast. I'm your host Ryan Redoute, aka That Michigan Guy on Instagram and TikTok and even YouTube. And today we're going to be talking about the beautiful, the gorgeous Tahquamenon Falls in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. I just went on a trip there recently and it was my first time visiting, so I have a lot of good recommendations for you of what to check out, especially if you're maybe short for time, things to do, what to expect, all of that fun stuff. But before we get into that, I want to talk about what's going on in Michigan now. So this week, I actually get to have the honor of going to the Book Tower in downtown Detroit grand opening. Miguel, yes, the famous singer Miguel is gonna be performing there, which I was like, okay, work. It's a free event too, but I'm gonna be there, kind of talking about Book Tower, shooting some video footage to help promote it because it's gonna be open to the public and is a very beautiful, very historic building that, if anyone's seen art or photos from downtown Detroit, it's the building with the green roof that everyone has kind of seen in many things. So I'm very excited for that. But also, it's summertime in Michigan here. Everyone, I hope that you are checking things off your Michigan summer bucket list. I know I am trying to. Me and my husband just sat down and planned out the rest of our weekends that we know are going to be kind of like those guaranteed nice weather weekends in the Michigan summer. So make sure you're doing that. Make sure you're making those plans. Let this be your inspiration that if you have not planned that one camping trip or gone to that beach town that you wanted to, that you sit down, you do it tonight, you just take 10 minutes for yourself and you talk about it, you plan it, you do it, bring the kids, whoever, just make it happen. Because then we're going to be sitting inside during the winter and you're going to say, man, I wish I would have done something more when the weather was nicer. You got to think ahead. You got to think ahead of what your future self would tell you. But moving on to our next segment, I want to go into the Michiganders Say What, where I get to share all the lovely comments that you share in the online communities I've made of all these Michiganders doing their thing. And today, I actually have two. One of them comes from Sunflower Emoji Piper, Sunflower Emoji, and they said, rumor has it that you're in Cadillac, Michigan. That's crazy. You came to our small town, but I was in Cadillac, actually. I was actually on the Cadillac news station. They had me come on and do a little bit of a segment, but yeah, I'm always going through Cadillac because you have to go through it to get to Frankfort, Michigan. And we've actually stopped in a couple times over the years and realized that it's such a cute town. There's actually a beautiful lake there. I think you can go camping at it. Correct me if I'm wrong. But Cadillac is a very cute city that you always have to kind of get through when you're going up north, which I think really is to its benefit because people can see how cute it is. And honestly, I love all the small Michigan towns, and I'm lucky that I get to check out so many because I'm always driving around the state. But the other comment is coming to us from Laura Gale, 82, and she said, I think that both of these are actually from TikTok. But they said people don't realize how beautiful our state is with all of the heart around the face emoji. And it's really true because as you'll see as I go into this conversation about Tahquamenon Falls, the state is truly beautiful. Now, this kind of spearheads the conversation about Tahquamenon, but I actually went on a trip to Costa Rica where we went to these volcanic baths, you can say, like these volcanic hot springs where there's a lot of little waterfalls everywhere. It was hot, it was really relaxing, and you might have seen them in a couple of my TikTok videos where I made some TikTok Michigan travel spoofs. But these falls in Costa Rica, I would say I got the same feeling, the equivalent feeling by visiting Tahquamenon Falls. It was the Michigan version, they weren't hot, but the Michigan version was refreshing. And that kind of leads me into talking more about Tahquamenon. So, Tahquamenon Falls, let's take a breather. It is so beautiful. Like, anyone who has not visited yet, I cannot more strongly recommend that you plan a trip up there. I know it's a lot of driving, but plan to stay maybe in Mackinac, I think it's Mackinac Island City. Mackinac City? Whatever the city is that you kind of launch from for the ferries to Mackinac Island. You can stay there, and then I think Tahquamenon would probably be like an hour and a half, 2 hours, because it's toward the top of the Upper Peninsula. But it's thin. The Upper Peninsula is thin, so you can drive through it, no problem. But we were staying at a friend's cottage that was like an hour into the Upper Peninsula, so that benefited us because Tahquamenon was only about 55 minutes or so from their cottage, so that really was great. But we ended up going there, and I was just baffled. So they have the Upper Falls, and then there's the Lower Falls. We started at the Upper. I was already impressed. You get to do a ton of hiking, so make sure you bring kind of like lunch for the day. We did not pack enough food by any means, so I would definitely pack a cooler, fill it with drinks. They have some like food and drink stands there, but of course, like everything's really expensive. So if you're trying to keep it down and cheap, or if you have, restrictions to your diet, these kinds of places probably won't be able to suit you, especially like gluten allergy or things like that. Or myself, I was dairy free. I am dairy free. So I wasn't able to get too much, and it was, like a corn dog or something like that. So I really was trying to feel, good bodily because we're doing all this hiking. So drink a lot of water. They have water stands, so that's okay. And water spigots to like refill your bottle at, especially at the front of the Upper Falls Park. It costs about like $15-20 to get in, but we ended up getting a tab so that we can visit any state park in the US, I believe, with that car that has a tab on it. So that was kind of cool. So even though it's a little bit expensive to get in, you end up getting that benefit from it, which is awesome. And I would say too that the Upper Falls, you hike to kind of like the biggest fall. It's the one that you've probably seen the most in a lot of photos of like it in fall time, or just professional photographers doing Michigan-esque photography. Tahquamenon Falls is that waterfall. Okay, it is the waterfall that you've probably seen in all the photos. That's the main one. That's the upper. And you hike to it. There's a bunch of different vantage points. You think like the one's going to be the best photo, and then the next one ends up being closer, and that one's the best photo. So you can almost save your photos to the end if you wanted to just relish and enjoy your time up until that. But the Tahquamenon Falls at the end of the upper, like you just get the most amazing view. And I'm sure in every season, if you went there, fall, winter, summer, anything, it's going to look beautiful. Now, to my surprise, there's all these hiking trails around everything, and you can actually hike from the lower falls to the upper, I believe back. There's all these different paths you can take, and they have a lot of maps to show you. But we ended up just driving to the lower falls because we were tired after a hike for the upper falls, and it was a really hot day. And I was just completely baffled by what we were able to experience. So you go to the vantage point, the lower falls, and they're doing a lot of construction to try to modernize it, and I think make it really a true destination place that people like. They get there and they know they can spend the whole day, and it's a day trip. Because you can literally spend the whole day there. Again, food, bring the cooler, bring the water bottles, like bring everything so that you can spend the whole day there. Sunscreen, towels, bathing suit, the works, like have everything packed in the car, because we were just roughing it and we could have stayed so much longer, but we decided not to because we were starving for one. But the lower falls now, you get to see the vantage point and you're like, oh, that's cute, like more waterfalls, cool. But then if you walk around the lower fall area and the different trails around it, you get to literally get in, because we saw people and we're like, hey, people are actually down there. And we were talking to our friend who had lived there a lot, and he's like, oh yeah, I always went all the time and we got to be in it. So we're like, oh, that's where you must get in to actually be in the falls. And it was true. So as you walk around, you see all these people and everyone's hanging out. There's such wide spaces for you to actually hang out and just enjoy the rush of the cool, refreshing water going by you. And it's amazing. Like, and I really related it back to that Costa Rica experience I had, in that, we drove like 3 hours from the main city in Costa Rica just to get to those hot springs, and on the way, there weren't any hot springs like it. So similarly in Michigan, when it comes to traveling, I think I did realize, like, just like in anywhere else in the world, you do have to travel a little bit. You have to go a little bit the distance to find the coolest, most outrageous experiences that you can. So that's kind of a tip too when it comes to traveling around Michigan, that not everything's going to be, 15, 20 minutes away. That's going to be one of the, most beautiful things you've ever seen. You have to kind of give that effort in. But the lower falls, you could hang out. There's all of this area, so you don't feel like it's crowded. Even if it was a crowded day, like there's so much space to check out, you wouldn't even be bothered. Bring water shoes. That's another big tip that I would say. I did not. And the sandstone is really grippy, so you don't have to worry about slipping, which is also great, especially for anyone that's going there that's older. But it's definitely nice because you are stepping kind of in and out of sands. You clearly can't see below completely well of like where everything is, but you can walk around. And I was lucky enough, actually, I remember I did bring my Tivas for that, but I was able to walk around, and the photography you can get just in the Upper Falls and even the Lower Falls to really like, I'm all about taking photos. Obviously, I make content almost like for part of my living now, and it's like just an amazing spot to get content. It's an amazing spot to get photos. My husband, he was taking these photos with long exposure. That is the secret that I want to share with everybody. And you can see some of the photos that I posted on my Instagram and TikTok, and I even a video of the falls and my experience there if you want to check out more of that in-person kind of viewpoint of the falls. But if you take a live photo with an iPhone and then switch to long exposure, if your subject in the photo stays completely still, you get the coolest, most beautiful photos you could ever imagine from like just a little iPhone, take. And it's something that you'll want to share with your family and friends. And you feel just so in the elements there. Like it was just amazing. Couldn't get enough of it, but it was a lot. I was really blown away by the experience. So Tahquamenon Falls gets an A++++ for you should add it to your Michigan bucket list if you haven't yet. I'm so happy that we weren't even expecting to go, but then my one friend was like, hey, let's skip work, it's summer, and it's not a busy day for you, right? So let's go. And we traveled up there, and it was the best idea that we could have done, really. So that's my take on Tahquamenon and all my little tips with it. I hope that you go to visit soon. Other than that, feel free to check out the other podcasts that I have. I just did one other one so far. So this is episode 2. Let me know in the comments if you can, this is new for me. I don't know I can't remember if you can leave comments on these podcasts, but you can leave feedback. So feel free to leave feedback. I believe you can do that now. What you want to see in these podcast episodes, what you want me to talk about. Again, it's all things Michigan, kind of all the time for everybody who lives here and other people who maybe have moved away. That's a surprisingly large portion of my audience. I would say it's about 10% of people who just love the Great Lakes State, maybe moved away, secretly want to move back. I'm giving a shout out to all of you. This podcast is going to make you want to possibly move back, so watch out. And other than that, I hope everyone just has an amazing day. And I will see you all, Michigan.